Okay, so today I'd like to talk about cancelling beliefs in relationships to doing it on behalf of others. I'll do that first, and I'll do it with people who are experiencing difficult situations which seem to be stuck. For example, house moves or whatever, where there seems to be stuck energy. But I'll start with doing it on behalf of other people. And for many years when I was doing... Now, cancelling of beliefs stems from lesson 14 of A Course in Miracles, which is God... It says in lesson 14, God did not create war, so it is not real. God did not create cancer, so it is not real. It states it in that lesson, those things. And so it's very like... but then when I was exposed to Dr. Hawkins' teachings, he mentioned a different variant, which is I cancel my belief in cancer. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. So I did that mostly, and I did sometimes do the God did not create it and so it's not real, just what intuitively felt better. But then, so for many years, and then I had kidney failure, I had gout, I had asthma, and I did it on all of those things, and all of those illnesses dropped away miraculously. And then one day, after many years of doing the counselling, mainly just for myself, one day my mother went to the doctor and she had swelling, oedema, in the legs. And the doctor sent her back home and said, there's nothing we can do, it's your heart failure. There's nothing we can do. And I didn't really like the response the doctor gave, and I thought, I need to try it for my mother. And intuitively I did, like, God did not create, and this is true, God did not create oedema in my mother. And then more or less the next day, the swelling in her legs started to reduce. And she actually, it's almost like she intuitively knew I was doing something, because she let me know. Oh look, they're going down. She's just told me. And then within a week, all the swelling had gone, which was quite miraculous. And it was like, I was being directed, like, you don't have to just do it for yourself. And of course in the lesson it says God did not create war. So, war is probably something where you're clearing something from the collective, or clearing something from the collective, I call it the collective karma of humanity. So you can do it on behalf of others, and you can pray for others. So you can cancel for others, or you can clear for other people as well. So I did that, and I had that miracle. So now, after that experience, then I always will do it. I will say, for example, God did not create heart failure in my mother, so it's not real. God did not create exhaustion in my father, so it's not real. So I'll do all of those things, and I know that they are helping to whatever extent they can help. Sometimes these things take a long time, but it's worthwhile. It clears it from my consciousness and from their consciousness. And it also, what is the power of clearing stuff that you see in others is very, very powerful. As I've said with the oedema, that's very, very powerful. And it's well known the strength of praying for others, the research done on that. And I just like to remind everyone of Dr. Hugh Len. Hopefully most people have heard of Dr. Hugh Len. Otherwise, he's quite a famous story. He's got videos online and a book on his method, which is something along the lines of "Please forgive me, I love you," something along those lines. Anyway, but just what he was doing was he was letting go of his perceptions of what other people were and what they had done. So he, in essence for me, he forgave, or he let go of the data, he let go of his beliefs or his judgments within his mind of a whole prison in the US. And everyone in that prison got well and left, and they closed down the prison. And without him having to actually go and give therapy individually to, he had just essentially mostly had the files So you see, okay, axe-murderer, psychological, pathological, narcissistic, whatever it was. And he would just see that and then just let go of his judgment, his forgiveness, and not see that, and let go of his perceptions, not holding any kind of belief or idea of right or wrong or good or bad or anything. For me, they go into the mystical presence, where everything is pure love and there is no such thing as people being bad or evil or wrong. And the whole prison got well. So that's the immense power of letting go, letting go of seeing, like with my own parents, like if I see them as sick, that's not going to invite that's not going to invite, thank you, Dimitri, that's not going to invite the miraculous in, because I can then become a channel.
Okay, no worries, go in.
I can then become a channel for that light and that potentiality and that presence where shifts can or may happen. So hence, in my view, if you're going to do it on behalf of others, you can use either form, like I cancel my belief. I cancel my belief in heart failure in my mother. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. So it's like, when I would say that, the I would be what I call the I of the collective ego. I cancel the illusion in me and the illusion in my mother. I cancel my belief or our belief in heart failure. I'm an infinite being, and now we're going into the infinite I, the presence I, the eternal I, where this does not exist. And so we're clearing away this, what I'd call a collective pattern of illness, of duality, of separation, of fear. And then when we connect to that light, that actually this is not in truth we're all in the infinite presence and oneness, then these things, it allows the light in, the miracles to come in. Whereas if someone thinks they're ill and then you think they're ill, it's just the same pattern resides in both places. If you're something like, the great thing of doing spiritual work is if you're something like a saint or a mystic, or like Dr. Hugh Len, where you've done a lot of clearing, just you forgiving or cancelling or letting go of your perception of wrong or bad or good or duality can allow, a whole prison, a whole prison. So this for me is what can happen on the, what can happen with the collective side of things, with people. So it's very, very powerful. And you just, I think it's very, very powerful so you can let the light in, that you just see how you're seeing the other individual and how you're suffering from it, or you're thinking they're suffering from it. And you just see how you're holding it in mind and just say, look, God did not create it, so it's not real in this frame. Or God, like I would do with my mother, God did not create suffering in my mother, so it's not real. God did not create death. So there is those who've experienced the spiritual experience of something beyond the separate I, just the body and the thoughts, will know that there's an essence which is undeniable, so which is shared by all of us, or is just one of us at that level. So this allows the light in. As you see in truth, then you let go of the more darker perceptions of what the world is. So that's what I would say with doing it. So I do recommend doing it for other people and yourself. It can be done for the world, like in Course in Miracles. God did not create war, so it is not real. So you're just clearing, and the more you become spiritually connected, you're just clearing that belief from the collective that is being held in the necessity for war for whatever reason. Okay, so now in terms of stuck situations, for me, they can also, this cancelling of belief, I definitely use it. Now, for me, on a mystical level, this is just how I see it. Nothing happens by accident. And the situations which are stuck in our lives are lessons that require clearing. So I was just talking about how to use cancelling of beliefs with situations which are stuck in our lives, like trying to sell a house, for example, or difficult estate agents. Now, whenever, again, to allow the light and the miracles to come in, because it is a course in miracles, you have to let go, like I was just saying before, of how your ego is processing and holding on to that. Now, in essence, anyone who's at a very advanced spiritual level will always be, shall we say, in the present moment. There is no such thing as the last moment or the next moment, or even any ego processing about what needs to be done in the next moment or what happened in the past moment. There's just pure eternal presence. So, when an ego gets a stuck situation and gets frustrated over it, it's a huge block to not only the presence, but allowing miracles and light into the situation, or allowing the impossible in. And actually, most people who do spiritual work will know that the more heavily invested or emotional one is, the more a situation can get unmanageable and get stuck. It's almost like that vibration of resentment and fear or grief, and that continual thinking, processing also makes the situation worse. It's like things just tend to go even worse. And then as you let go, it's like as the light and the presence comes in, it's like little miracles start happening, which were unexpected. So but I would say that, now here's the thing, like let's say, for example, I was trying to sell my house and all the estate agents weren't working. Now the reason why something sticks in my head is because it's important, is because it's meaningful, is because it's something that's very, very valuable to my ego. And hence, it's like you can't be in the present moment. It's like, no, that has to be there all the time. It's that engrossing. Of course, that blocks off the capacity for presence and miracles. So the trick is being in the present moment doesn't stop action being taken. But, actions usually can be done in a few minutes, so that's no excuse. So what I would do is, to find out what is the labeling in the ego around the situation, like frustration that one can't move to another place, or it could be like there could be resentments or grievances being held onto the estate agents for being incompetent. You could also get the thing of if you're into the esoteric or spiritual worlds, you could probably see that you might think that there's something energetically going on in the location. You could cancel those. You could also cancel everything that your ego holds on. Cancel images. Also, it can be a thing of survival and money. Can be associated with it. So then it's like, well, my survival depends on getting this sold. So you want to cancel your beliefs around the significance of money, and also if there's deadlines often make the ego non-present. So it's like you want to surrender, essentially you're surrendering anything that your ego's holding on to. You want to let it go through cancelling or through God did not create it, so it's not real. As you keep doing that, those thoughts will start to be less and less. The other tool to do with it is like, let's say you're in the tsunami of like, I can't get all the estate agents are naff, and I need to sell this because I need to get the cash flow in, and it needs to be done by next week. Of course, if all of that is important, then the possibility for presence is very low. But then again, I was speaking to somebody earlier, apart from doing the cancelling of beliefs, you can do what I call the observer. The observer is like, oh, there's all of these thoughts and feelings and images going on in my, shall we call it the ego, but something is watching. There is a detached observer. And actually the detached observer is you. So you just be, what's actually observing all these thoughts and these feelings and these images? Is there a witnessing or observing or a sense of presence which is not even invested, which is free from all of that? So if you play with that question, it will help you to just drop the identification. Now, one of my favorite stories, which I've said many times, many of you have heard in the group before, is that when there is zero interest in something, zero valuing, zero meaning projected onto something, it disappears. So life becomes presence orientated and intuitive orientated, but it's no longer like mentally orchestrated. So to let in the real miracles, it's like, let's say I was obsessed with my house and the incompetent estate agents and deadlines. Well, all of that can be, I'll explain that all as a metaphor, and that can be a metaphor for any problem anyone is facing within their consciousness right now. The only reason you're not in infinite presence and stillness right now in this moment is because things in the ego are meaningful and important and valued. It could be sensations in the body, it could be thoughts in the head, it could be projections about a house or an estate agent. The only reason that stuff is here in this split moment is because something within the consciousness thinks that's interesting to hold on to it, has some kind of payoff invested in it. So whatever you're holding in mind, whether it be a feeling in the body, an estate agent, a house, a sick relative, whatever it may be, work colleagues, it's like, if they're here right now, actually the power is here to drop, just to drop the interest in it. It's not important, it's meaningless. So the metaphor is like, this is a metaphor for everyone. I live in a house, I still do, where the Piccadilly line goes past it every day, every few minutes. And when I first went into that house, I could hear the Piccadilly line going regularly past the house, and people would comment on how you could live there. But now I don't hear anything. It's vanished, but the Piccadilly line still goes past, but I don't hear it at all. So that is what can happen to everything that you're holding on to. When there's no meaning or interest or no valuing, a thing disappears and there's only presence. In fact, there's peace, presence, happiness and joy. And actually, in that state, that is when the miracles happen, the flow happens. So when you get into those stuck states, that things irritate you and they become even more stuck. So it definitely can be used in those situations as well. I've had a situation, yes, it's not an estate agent, but I've shared this before. I had a lady in a spiritual group who didn't like me because I was saying the word God too much, and I think she was a very strong atheist, which is fine, but it seemed like we didn't like each other in our shares. And so I did pray for her, I did try and release my interest and value in the story around it. And the day was completely gone, and I felt nothing, I was not holding any attachment to it. It was the day she came up to me when I went to that meeting, and she said, Sabbir, you've helped me a lot, I just need to let you know I'm leaving the country. So that's what I would like to say. When you clear out all your baggage, miracles are possible. But while you're still holding on to, you still have some tight energy around it, there's still a potential for stuckness or less of those miracles happening.